hour-and-a-half long session with this lady that's like a kind of inner child reparenting work practitioner on Wednesday. It's a long story, but IFS is not quite the same as doing inner child work, but it's about parts work, and so it kind of recognizes IFS, internal family systems, kind of recognizes that every individual is a sum of parts, right? Because we all have a personality, but our personality is composed of several parts, right? Oh my God, I would love to get IFS trained. Like, when I get through grad school, I'm definitely getting IFS trained. I would love to be an IFS practitioner. But recognizes that and this is like the famous book by Richard Schwartz. We talked about this in grad school. But every individual is kind of made up of several parts, right? And so you've got one side of your personality that you show in some context, and other sides of your personality that you show in other context, and certain sides of yourself that are you define as your core self, other sides of yourself that you really try to push away. This gets a little bit into not Freud, like Jungian psychology with like the shadow self and that sort of thing. And then you've got sides of yourself that are a little bit more similar to like Freud's ego of like they manage you. They're like your, I guess they would be the super ego for Freud. The inner critic, angry protector, yada, yada, yada. And then other parts of yourself as well. We might spend a whole day talking about IFS sometimes. I really think the different therapy treatment modalities are really interesting. So, but anyway, IFS is super cool and has a lot of internal subconscious work and that sort of thing. So I love that she mentioned that. Let's start filling out this treatments here a little bit. Let's make it green. Yo, we love the Final Fantasy here. Soundtrack. I don't understand why it always makes it super tiny like that. Did I tell you to go super tiny? I hate that. I'm not a fan of that. Treatments. As per usual, we will finish this up. I'll probably do a little bit of prettying up of it. Again, I'm by no means a graphics designer. And then we will add this to the resources section in the Discord and also in the official Google Drive for people that are interested in looking at it. My goal is to have like a really good resources section full of resources and just cool little notes and infographics and stuff inside the Discord channel for anyone that is interested. So let's see. Education. See, I don't understand why it keeps doing that. Education. CPTSD. What else she mentioned on here? Let's just create the safety. We'll say within self and interpersonally, right? So this is a thing that's big if you're someone from a traumatic history or has a history of trauma. Having like safe interpersonal relationships are really important. God knows as someone who has come from a history of trauma myself, have been in unsafe relationships with people and unfortunately have not always been the safest and most supportive with people. So, I mean, we're all human. But yeah, healthy, supportive relationships can be really important for people recovering from trauma. Interpersonal, bro, that's the right spelling. Stop it, autocorrect. What else? Somatic and emotional awareness. Emotional awareness, yoga, meditation. I mean, I would even kind of put like breathing techniques and that sort of thing inside of there as well, like square breathing, breath work, etc. She didn't mention this explicitly. Oh, God. I choked on my words. I feel like I'm getting sick, y'all. IFS. I'm just going to say generally therapy. But in particular, say IFS, trauma-informed therapy. And EMDR is great. I had this really great conversation with a practitioner in the field. This is probably about 2 weeks ago. And she is such a huge... She herself is a trauma-informed therapist. That's what she specializes in. I think she's actually... She was in town, but I think she's from Texas originally. And is a really big fan of what's called polyvagal theory. We'll do an episode on polyvagal theory at some point. And EMDR, which is this really cool treatment, particularly for people recovering from trauma. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's some weird thing where you do a thing with your eyes and recall a traumatic event, and somehow it helps like take the emotional sting out of the event. I have no idea how it works. This is a thing, if you're like a therapist, you can get certified in. I would love to get certified in this, honestly. Yeah, it's evidence-based treatment for PTSD. Also helpful for other stuff as well, but it's primarily, it's most commonly used as a treatment for PTSD. What's going on? Okay, I got to figure out how to pronounce your name here. Sioisel? That's kind of... Tell me how to pronounce your name if I'm butchering it. Welcome in. Thank you so much for the follow. How's your night going? Found you on mental health. Nice. Awesome. Yeah, we're talking about when you typed in. Nice. We're talking about trauma and trauma disorders tonight. How's your night going? CEO. Oh, okay. I gotcha. CEO. ICL. Is that the second half of that? Yeah. It's been really rough, honestly. Oh, yeah? Why so? We haven't done like a depression and anxiety episode, but if you feel like maybe that's right up your alley. Tugging out too much? Oh, yeah. I mean, happens to the best of us sometimes. I get it. I'm assuming I understand what you mean when you mean tugging out there. Is there something we can talk about here? Yeah, man, I always have open Q&A. So the way that I run stream is typically I have a mental health topic that I introduce. We usually talk about it for the first hour and a half of stream. Second hour and a half or so, I'll usually do games and stuff. But I have an open mental health and just general life advice Q&A all the time. So there is an ad. Okay, well, when you finish up with the ad, then tell me when the ad is done.
To heal the parts of themselves that were developed in the context of trauma. IFS proposes that we have different parts of ourselves that are all contained in our brain. And we may have a wounded child that is part of us. Some people have a very happy, healthy, gregarious child that was created when they were younger. And they want to hold on to that. Great. Other people experience trauma in childhood, and that child is still wounded. That child has never healed. So with IFS...
Let's see. CEO says, when things get hard, I kind of have this tendency of looking for advice on stream if people are open to it. It helps me cope kind of and feel better since I can't afford any kind of help at the moment. Yeah, man, I totally get it. I've been in grad school to be a therapist, and it's hard on the other side of things too, because therapy can be really unaffordable for people who really need it, and often the people who need it most are the people who are least able to afford it. So I totally get that. Do you think I can tell you about your situation? Yeah, sure. What's up? Feel free to.
IFS, the process of healing that child is going to start taking place. So the person can start letting go of the anger and resentment and whatever other feelings, grief and guilt and shame that that child has. Memory integration, it's kind of my shorthand for it, using EMDR. EMDR really helps take those fragments of memories that are stored in the amygdala, our fear processing area of our brain, and make connections to help integrate them into our narrative of ourself. Address underlying issues instead of simply struggling with symptoms in the present. A lot of people with CPTSD have always, because they thought that that's just the way they were, have struggled with just trying to control their emotions, trying to control their thoughts.
I will say, and CEO, feel free to, I don't know if you're typing, but feel free to put your question in the chat. I'll be happy to help you with it. I will say, this is quite possibly one of the most frustrating things about having someone in your life with a history of trauma. Ultimately, it's no one's fault, regardless of what your mental health disorder is. Often, people develop mental health disorders as a result of unfortunate life circumstances that have happened to them. Trauma is no exception. However, it is everyone's responsibility to do the work to overcome their stuff. So one of the most frustrating things in the world is to have someone in your life who has been through significant amount of trauma and is not really doing anything to address the underlying issues. Maybe they're doing something about the symptoms. Oftentimes it can be unhealthy ways of coping with the symptoms, but yeah, it can be rough sometimes. Let's see. CEO says, well, I'm breaking up with this girl 5 months ago now, and she was my first real love, and I feel like this breakup has impacted me so much and was kind of the thing that made everything explode. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Breakups can be really hard. I went through one myself about 3 or 4 months ago, so I totally feel you. When you really, really love someone, it can be devastating to have that end. So you said, has impacting me so much, the kind of thing that made everything explode. So other than the breakup, which I get is super hard, and if it's someone that you felt like you really, really loved, it's not surprising me at all that it could take 5 months, 6 months, or more to get over. So what kind of other things have been going awry for you?
And basically what they're doing is trying to control the superficial symptoms without knowing what's causing the problem. It's like trying to put a cap on a volcano without knowing what's causing the lava to erupt. You know, eventually you've got to do something with the with whatever's causing the lava, or it's going to blow the cap off. And it's exhausting to try to fight against that lava all the time.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see. I've been alone my whole high school life because of being under pressure with football scholarships and playing at high level because of concussions. So, CEO, do you feel like you've been struggling with like feeling alone, and then you've been feeling these feelings of feeling alone and all this pressure to be really successful with football, and then you went through this breakup recently? So she basically, after 4 years, she was my first real relationship. Gotcha. Yeah. I see. With a human being. What other species have you been in relationships with? Yeah, that makes total sense. That sounds really hard, man. Yeah, I think it's really hard to... She was my only person I really had. Yeah. Man, this is such a relevant thing, because I myself, after having gone through a breakup recently, have really had to figure out how to move on and how to handle things in a healthy way. So I totally get where you're at, my man. I feel like I was just at that place myself. And I got left up with no one else, no friends and no support. Yeah, I would say that was my question is, a lot of times, and I'm assuming I'm assuming you're a man because you said you were with a girlfriend. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. Um, Speaking from my own experience as a guy, 19-year-old and male. Cool, gotcha. Don't ever want to make the assumptions. 2024 after all, but I'm a dude, so I get it. Speaking as a guy, one thing that I learned, and it took me way too late in life to realize this, is that breakups for men. So often there's this idea that women are emotional creatures and are obsessed with relationships, and because of that, breakups are really difficult for women. I think that's true. I think both genders really struggle, and this is just me being heteronormative for a second here, really struggle in breakups. But I honestly think breakups are more difficult for men, and I think the reason for that is more often than not, men have a lack of close personal relationships, and we put all of our like needs for emotional intimacy and closeness with others just on our girlfriend. I know I have been guilty of that for a long, long time, and have just personally recently had to really work on that. So yeah, man, I mean, it can suck if she was like your first love. I mean, you're 19, and so your first real relationship, you're busy because you're really hustling and trying to be successful. I can totally relate to that. I'm a workaholic myself, and so if you're really trying to get it in life, it can make it hard to have time for family and friends. I have the same problem, that I'll get in too much of a workaholic mode and then I neglect my relationships. And then because I neglect my relationships, I'll be in a relationship with a woman, and then I put all of my needs for emotional closeness and intimacy and someone to spend time with and hang out with, all of that's on her. And then it causes so much pressure on the relationship that it ends up blowing up the relationship. Then when that relationship does blow up, then it sucks because then I have no one, right? And so I've really had to focus on making family and friends more of a priority, so it's not just all on one person to take care of me. Let's see. She also had past trauma and used her mental health as a reason of breaking up, but got with someone a couple months after, which just have pushed me into a deeper hole. I was working 60 plus hours a week and was in college and gave her all my time. Basically, she just had all my left attention, and with all that, I've just got left. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that makes total sense, man. That sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. And so what do you feel like was the reason that she said, so tell me a little bit more about how the breakup went and what exactly caused it. She also said that I was asking for too much reassurance and attention. Yeah. And so my question for you is, we've had many streams talking about attachment theory before. Did you find that in your relationship you would describe yourself as, or let's talk about what she complained about. In the relationship, did she often complain of you being too distant and too unavailable, or you being too clingy and needing too much attention and reassurance? You're anxious? Okay, cool. Nice. Have made nice, my man. Welcome to the crew, man. You're right where you need to be. Well, I'm glad you came in. Yeah, I mean, I feel I'm the same way. So I'm fearful avoidant, but I'm anxious leaning. And so oftentimes I'm actually usually a little bit distant from people in the beginning of a relationship until I get really like emotionally connected to them, and then I can have issues with needing a little bit too much reassurance, wanting too much time together, to the point where it puts a lot of pressure on them and then causes relationships to blow up. I've been there, dude. She's been mistreated. She's more of an avoidant. I mean that kind of pairing is super normal. I've had many exes that have been more avoidant leaning or fearful avoidant, so it's a pretty common pairing. And so you're kind of working 60 plus hours a week. You had football going on, and in my mind, I would imagine a guy that's as busy and hardworking, chasing success as you, if you didn't have that much time with her, why do you feel like she was saying that you were asking for too much reassurance and attention? Because in my mind, if you're working like 60 hours a week, that's odd that you would even have time to hang out with her or talk to her that much, if that makes sense. You didn't have football. Oh, okay, gotcha. You were just working a lot. Working a lot plus college. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're working and college, that's a lot. And so you were working a lot and you had college and you're 19 and you were with this woman, this girl who had a history of trauma. And then you said she used her mental health as a reason for breaking up. The fact that she got with someone a couple months later is interesting information. I'll come back to it in a second. But tell me about how the breakup went. You said she used her mental health as a reason of breaking up. What does that mean? Did you guys sit down and we always slept on FaceTime and hang out in calls? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've done that before too. Honestly, it's like one of the best things in the world with a partner to like hop on a call. And I've been in like long distance things with a couple people before. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of awesome things about being in a relationship, man. Let me tell you. But how did the breakup actually go? What did she say? You said she used her mental health as a reason of breaking up. Was that just her being like, hey, I want to work on myself and I feel like I need time to work on myself and so I don't think we can be together anymore? Is that what you said, or how did that go? I'm gonna keep going with the video here.
What can we do to help people start developing a sense of safety and empowerment? Well, first, let's start looking at the symptoms. Dizziness or nausea when remembering the trauma. This happens when we are flooded with stress hormones that increase our blood sugar remarkably, that increase our adrenaline levels. You know, we are flooded with all of these excitatory chemicals, if you will, and it's kind of like being...
Let's see. So 3 days before breakup, it was as usual, and the only weird thing was that before sleeping, she kept saying, I love you so many times, but it felt good at the moment. Then she became more distant. She was distant for 3 days, making me wait and hold on without wanting to talk, and it was obvious something was wrong. Yeah, I will say a lot of times people will feel guilty if in their mind they've made the decision they want to break up with you. A lot of times if someone is planning to dump you, they've kind of been mulling over it for a while. It's not usually a thing that happens overnight. It's usually a thing where the person's like been unhappy for a while and they're mulling over it and they reach this point of acceptance of like, I'm going to break up with this person. And it can be hard to hear as someone that just gets blindsided. And I've been there before, so I'm speaking from personal experience. Most of the time, people don't decide that they want to break up with someone overnight. Usually it's like a thing that they've been thinking about for a couple weeks, couple months. And oftentimes there's a sense of guilt when they decide that they're going to leave. And so oftentimes, yeah, they'll be really affectionate right before they're going to leave, kind of out of a sense of guilt. Sometimes it's a last-ditch effort of like, hey, I love you and I care about you. Sometimes it's a last-ditch effort of trying to make things work. And then if the problems in the relationship are still there, then they're like, yeah, I mean, this isn't going to work. So then I stand up for myself and just said, baby, look, I love you so much and I'm here for you to support you. What's going on? She said, I can't do it anymore. Yeah. Did she give a reason as to what exactly? You said she said that she can't do it anymore. Did she say exactly like what? She was like, it's not your fault, and then said part of it was her, but the relationship has become tiring for us. But for me, it wasn't. Yeah. And I will say that can be one of the frustrating things. And again, I've been in your shoes personally. I will say my last relationship was actually like this. Again, then I got blocked and I was so confused. Oh God. Oh man. Are you me? Are you secretly me? Is that what's going on here? So I tried recontacting her. So you did did you do the typical thing and freak out and beg and chase? I've done this before. So again, this is not me throwing shade, but she blocked you and yeah. Sorry, not throwing shade at you at all. I've been there, my dude. I've walked exactly in your shoes. Again, I don't want to air my dirty laundry out of respect for previous partners. Yeah, look at me. She was my wife. I loved her so much. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, dude. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Well, I mean, I've had to, and then after recontacting, what did she say then? She just said a big paragraph. What did she, if you don't mind me asking, what were her complaints about in the relationship? Was it just that you were too needy, or you didn't give her enough space, or I do want to say, like, I feel your pain. I've been there. I mean, and I'm talking about, this was me like 3 months ago. So don't, I've been where you're at, dude. It sucks. I cried like a motherfucker every day for like 2 months straight. I've been in the place where I've begged in past relationships. And again, to respect people's privacy, I don't want to go too deep into the details of stuff, but you know, I've begged before, bawled my eyes out after breakups before. I've been the person that's been too needy sometimes and put too much responsibility on my partner for making me happy when I should have been working on making myself happy. I've been there before, so you're not alone, dude. Happens to the best of us. Telling me that she wants time for herself and wants time to focus, and that I was asking for too much attention. Yeah, and reassurance, and she wasn't able to do girlfriend responsibilities anymore, and that she isn't the right mental state. I'm fine telling you everything. Honestly, I'm in a place where I need to talk it out with someone. Yeah, man, I totally get that. Yeah, it's I will say it's a common dynamic. And I say that as a guy who's been in your shoes many times before. So I want to first off, I want to give you a little bit of comfort in knowing that there's nothing wrong with you, and this is a very common relationship dynamic. I've been in your shoes before, personally, more than once, and it's a very common thing for many people. So try not to beat yourself up. Oftentimes in these situations, we want to personally blame ourselves and be like, oh my God, you know, I sucked. I chased her too much. I put too much responsibility on her. I was too needy. Especially as a man, it's really easy to beat yourself up. Try really hard not to do that. We never really had an argument. Let's see. Then I tried to save things because for me, it wasn't this big and I could have worked on it. I told her, we can just take a break, but breaking up was big. We never really had an argument. I was visiting her, and we both were first everything. I was supposed to move next year to her city for criminology and then law, and then able to break long distance. Yeah. So I want to help give you a little bit of solace here, and I appreciate you sharing this stuff. I know it's really hard when you're going through a breakup, and it's still, 5 months is a little bit of time, but we all kind of get over stuff at our own rate. So, like, I always maintained my promises and never lied, and always kept. Yeah. So a couple things that I'm gonna say